We continue on this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation. We look at Georgia Southern baseball the back half of the week as they step back into Sun Belt Conference play to take on the South Alabama Jaguars down at Eddie Stanky Field in Mobile. And who better to talk to than the voice of South Alabama baseball and JT Crabtree? What's going on, dude?
What's up, buddy? Looking forward to having you guys in town. Obviously I've been on the softball circuit for a long time, but now second year baseball circuit, I actually get to have a series with you guys in town. I'm pumped, man.
Yeah, you've got to take us back to where was it you took us when we were there for football?
Heroes Sports Bar and Grill. Proud supporter of South Alabama Athletics.
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll make a stop or two there. It's literally around the corner from the Stink, so I'm sure we'll be there. It's true.
Perfect. Go back to last year for this South Alabama team. Everybody knows that South Alabama winning the Sun Belt Conference tournament over Georgia Southern last year. While it's not a great memory for Georgia Southern, South Alabama goes to the regional down in Gainesville. You guys had a blast. Like you mentioned, it was your first time being with the full South Alabama baseball team. What was that experience like to go down to Gainesville and make some noise that you guys did?
Yeah, it was great. We went down there playing our best ball, and you guys saw it with, what Miles Smith did in relief in the championship game, and just offensively a team all year that had honestly underperformed, and finally the last 2 weeks of the season figured it out. And going down to Gainesville, and then we had all that momentum from the Sun Belt tournament, and then in game one you lose 1-0 to Miami. It's like, oh shoot, here's that offense again. And we turn right back around the next morning and knock out Florida 19-1. I've never seen what we did in that sixth inning where it was 10 straight 2-out hits, 10 straight 2-out runs. I've never seen that before. That was unbelievable what we did down there. And then to turn around the next day and eliminate Miami too was pretty darn special. The guys still talk about the win over Miami and how much trash that they were talking to us, and for us to turn around and get that win and eliminate them was pretty fun. And then playing South Florida, we have a suspended game. We beat them, forced the winner take all game on a Monday, and just ran out of steam. And ironically, the guy that ended up getting the kind of game-changing hits was a guy from Mobile for South Florida, Jared Eaton. He went to Auburn, then went JUCO, and then ended up at South Florida. He actually went to my high school. And so it was very ironic that he ended up being the guy, but it was a lot of fun, man. It was so much fun. That was a really special group of guys. And, to see Ethan Wilson's career with the Jags end by going to a regional, Michael Sandel going to a regional. Those guys hadn't been to the postseason before. And so to get those guys to the postseason to end their career was pretty special.
You talk about that run. One of my favorite parts of that, you have a GoPro in the booth with you, and Charlie Nichols, y'all's sports information director, who's a fantastic human being. He was the most fired up of anybody I've ever seen in those videos. Didn't you get Charlie on the air this past week when you guys were at Troy?
I did. So for months, I've joked with him about, hey, I pack an extra headset. You can hop on if you want to. And sure enough, we get to the press box at Riddle Pace up in Troy. And I said, hey, man, I just held it up. I was like, you want it? He's like, yeah, I'll hop on there. I'm like, no kidding. All right, let's do it. And sure enough, he does every single inning of the whole series. And he was great. He did a great job. And especially, the Friday was a double dip. We were at the ballpark for 11 hours. I think collectively that day we were on the air for 7 hours. And so having him to jump on there and just shoot the breeze with him for a couple innings, it was a lot of fun. He did a great job. And it's not his first time on there. He used to do color back when we were in IMG school. He used to do color on the road. So it wasn't his first time, but it was his first time in 8 years on the radio. Did a pretty good job.
That's awesome.
It was great.
Talking about this South Alabama team, 22-12 overall. You've got 9-6 record in Sun Belt Conference play. What is this South Alabama team? You talked about a couple of guys not back for this South Alabama team, but still some familiar faces.
Yeah, Ethan Wilson, Michael Sandel on the offensive side, those guys are gone. But some guys like Santi Montiel, Hunter Stokes, guys you're used to seeing every day in the order for South Alabama, those guys are back. Just about all of the pitching is back from last year. Miles Smith, JoJo Booker, Matt Boswell, Tyler Learman. The starting rotation returned every start from last year except for one, and that was the opening day start. The bullpen lost some big pieces. Tyler Perez is now a GA with the team. Jace Dalton graduated. Tyler Samaniego was drafted. So you lost some big pieces at the back end of the game out of the pen, but offensively they're better this year. In spite of losing Ethan Wilson and Michael Sandel, offensively a team that's hitting north of 290. The power overall just maybe isn't quite the same, but it's a more balanced offense. We run a lot more. We've got almost 40 stolen bases on the season, and we didn't hit that mark as a team last year. Just overall far more balanced offensively. More guys are getting it done because you saw us last year. We had some guys especially at the end of the year, we had some cleanup guys that were hitting like 220, and that was just what we had. And you look at Miles Symington now, who's a transfer from Purdue. He's jumped right in. He's a grad transfer, so this is his only year. He's hitting still over 380, and he's in a, quote, slump right now because he was hitting over 400 until last week. And so he's been great. Charles Middleton Jr. has been in and out of the lineup the last couple of weeks, but he's a guy that's hitting north of 290. The guy right now to watch the plate is Landon Jordan. He's a transfer from Mississippi State. Last year was in the starting lineup on opening day for the defending national champs. He's a legitimate SEC player. And the reason he's not there anymore is he got hurt. A guy took his spot, was outplaying him down the stretch. He was without a roster spot. So he came here. He was actually recruited by us out of high school. So Mark Calvey doesn't like to use the portal, but he said in his case, I'll make an exception. We know he's a good kid. We know he handles his business. We'll bring him in. He's done great. He's been hurt a lot of the year. He's had a shoulder issue. And actually this past weekend was the first time in a month that he played the field. He's a third baseman typically, but he's having some issues throwing across the diamond. And so we've started him at DH, and swinging the bat hasn't been an issue. He's done great at DH. Well, this past weekend, we've had the flu kind of going through the team a little bit, and Eric Orbeta, who's another newcomer, has been our everyday second baseman. He comes down with the flu, and we're sitting here saying, we need someone at second. And Hunter Stokes, who has been our second baseman, has moved over to first base this year. We said, let's put Stokes at second, and Landon Jordan doesn't have to throw too much at first. Let's try him over there. He did pretty good, and he's still swinging the bat. He's right now 329, 3 homers. He's driven in 18, and he's only started 17 games. He's been tremendous. He's the guy that's heating up at the right time, and I think he's kind of the X factor offensively for this team. So hopefully, I still don't think this team has played their best baseball. I still think they've got it ahead of them. Had some tough stretches, lost 7 of 8 on a road trip 2 weeks ago. Played a Troy team that's pretty tough, especially at their place this past weekend. Took the series there, so you feel good. But now getting ready to play you guys this weekend to start a stretch of 7 of the next 9 against ranked opponents. This is the gauntlet coming up now.
You talk about what it's been up and down a little bit in Sun Belt Conference play. You sweep UT Arlington at home to start it, lose 2 out of 3 at Louisiana, get swept at Georgia State, then you return home, sweep App State, and then as you just mentioned, at Troy this past weekend, taking 2 out of 3 with that doubleheader on Friday. You mentioned it before we started recording that this is a team that had gone on an 8-game road stretch, a lot like Georgia Southern just got finished with before this past weekend. And that was a big part of it. But what does this team look like in Sun Belt Conference play, especially the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, they've been up and down. That 8-game stretch going into the season, we all kind of circled as, this is where we're going to find out who we are. And it was a tough series. It was a tough stretch because you look at, we started that 8-game stretch playing Auburn in Montgomery in Riverwalk Stadium. And we just traded punches with those dudes and ended up losing 13-12. And then you go to Louisiana, tough place. They're playing better ball this year. You drop the series, win one of them, which you'll take that. Then you turn around, you play Alabama, and it's a game where you were down, you come back and tie it. And honestly, you should have taken the lead in the 8th, but the go-ahead run tripped coming around 3rd and is thrown out the place. And it's like, what are you going to do? That never happens. And then we lose the game on a walk-off. It's a 1-2 count, 2 outs, bases loaded in the 9th, and a curveball in the dirt gets away from the catcher, and the run scores on a wild pitch. It's like, that doesn't happen. And then you go to Georgia State, and you get swept, and, they play much different at home. That ballpark is a launching pad over in Decatur. Ryerson was hot. Griffin Chaney was hot. Just a lot of guys just played really well. Pitching-wise, they had some some good arms, especially their lefties out the pen were really strong against us that weekend. But it was another weekend where we had some bad luck. In the second game on a Saturday, we gave up a 4 spot in the first inning. 2 of those runs were with 2 outs on a ball in foul ground that stays in foul ground, then just barely touches the corner of the third base bag and trickles down the line, allows 2 runs there. That never happens. The ball never hits the corner like that. And then you throw 7 shutout innings behind that. The Friday game, you lost by 2, and partly because you'd made an earlier error in the game that allowed 2 runs to come in to score. And then Sunday, you're up 5-0, and the wind's blowing out, and they get a hold of 2 pop-ups that just keep on going. One of them ends up being a grand slam, and you lose 9-5. What are you going to do? It's baseball like that sometimes, but I really, like I said, I think this team still hasn't played their best ball. They've got some guys that are kind of settling into the lineup. The lineup isn't really what we know it's going to be yet because, like I said, with Landon Jordan, you've got not enough spaces for too many guys, which obviously it's a great problem to have. And so they're still trying to figure out where guys sit. Y'all are wanting some payback. Always a ton of fun, regardless if it's regular season or a championship game. It's always fun when the Jags and the Eagles match up on the diamond. So I think honestly, both teams are going to learn a lot about themselves. You guys have been rallying from behind in so many games. I think I'm really excited to see y'all in person and see just how scrappy and how tough you guys are.
You bring up something I wanted to get to a little bit later on, but this has kind of turned into a semi-rivalry between Georgia Southern and South Alabama on the baseball field. We've talked about it time and time again, Danny and I have, of those are always really good games when South Alabama and Georgia Southern, whether it's regular season or postseason. It seems like South Alabama has gotten the better of Georgia Southern most of the time in the postseason. But when you look at this team, what is it from a South Alabama side that this Georgia Southern South Alabama series is?
You're right. It really does feel like a rivalry. I mean, the way I think about it was last year when we went to you guys. I'm up in the booth, and every time you guys came to the plates, I was nervous. I felt like you guys it didn't matter 1 through 9, you guys were going to smoke the ball, and it's not against our pitchers. That's just how good you guys are at the plate. And then, when we got to the Sun Belt tournament and into the championship game, just the way that we were playing, how we were playing so well. I mean, McWhirter hits a Oppo homer in the first off the daggum scoreboard in Montgomery. We're like, oh, God, here we go again. But then we rallied back and tied it. And I remember telling Joe McNulty in one of the breaks, I didn't feel afraid of you guys in that game like I did during the series. I don't know how I'm going to feel this weekend. We've got Southeastern before we play y'all, and we're not a very good team on the road. We're very up and down on the road, and Hammond's historically for us been a very tough place to play. I'm really curious to see, even just from my perspective, how I feel when I see you guys step in the batter's box. I know McWhirter's not there, but you still got Avant, and you got Ledford, and you got Thompson, you got all those other guys. But I'm really curious to see, I know our guys are jacked up to come play y'all. And I think that's half the battle is when you guys come up on the schedule, I think both of us kind of bring the level of play up and the intensity up a little bit. I think we're going to see that this weekend. It's our alumni reunion weekend. We've got the 25th anniversary of the 1997 team that went to an NCAA regional. They'll be back in town. We've got, I think, close to 60 baseball alum coming back into town. So it should be a heck of a weekend. The weather looks great. I'm doing the Saturday game from the deck and left, so that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it, man. You gotta stroll out there. They've got a big green egg cooking out there. It's not the Cajun Cooking Club, but we'll get you something.
Hey, you talk about food, we're there. Talk about this pitching for South Alabama. You talk about bringing back most of your starts from last year. The rotation has been changing a little bit the last couple of weeks with Miles Smith having to get out of the rotation. He came back out of the bullpen now. What does this rotation look like in the combination of Learman, Boswell, Booker, Smith in there, not in there? What's this pitching staff really look like now?
Yeah, so the main two guys on the weekend have been Matt Boswell and JoJo Booker, and everybody in the Sun Belt knows those guys. They've been around for a while, especially JoJo. Miles Smith has been in and out the last couple of weeks because in our loss, the Friday night loss in 11 innings against Louisiana, that's another game where you look back, should have won it. We had taken the lead in the 11th and blew it in the bottom half. Miles threw 8 innings, 128 pitches, and rightfully so, he's going to be a little bit tired the next time out. And he comes out Friday night against Georgia State and just didn't have it. He's topping out 86. Most of his stuff's sitting at 84. And he comes to get treatment that night, and he's just like, yeah, it's just something doesn't feel right. And honestly, there was some pretty heavy concern that he was done. Our certified athletic trainer, Chris McDonald, said, yeah, we're going to get some scans on him, but it doesn't look pretty. And fortunately, it was much better than they anticipated. And so they worked him back in out of the pen, and it worked out this past Thursday where Boswell moved up a day to start on Thursday. He was one of the guys coming off the flu, and honestly, he probably still had it while he was pitching. And he didn't have it. His fastball tops at 94. Usually he was sitting 88. The energy just wasn't there. And so, okay, it's an opportunity to throw Miles out there and, kind of like how you guys saw him in the championship last year. He can go long relief, let him go. And so it worked out that he looked fine. He felt fine, which is obviously the more important part. He felt fine out there. So I'm curious what they're going to do this weekend. I don't think we'll see Miles out of the rotation or in the rotation this weekend. I think they feel pretty good with roll him out there if someone gets in trouble. Or, Tyler Learman's been a Swiss Army knife for us. He started midweeks. He's been in the weekend the last couple of weekends. He threw 7 innings scoreless last weekend against App on 3 days rest. He's been a do-all for us. And so I think they're going to be comfortable whatever the situation dictates, whatever's easiest for Miles to throw out there, they'll let him roll. Now, historically, because he's had success against you guys, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he rolls out there on Friday and we shift the rotation back like normal. But, we'll find out this weekend, right?
It's been a while since Georgia Southern baseball has headed down to Mobile. 2018, the last time Georgia Southern had a series down at Eddie Stanky Field. Remind those of Eagle Nation that are coming down for the weekend what to expect from a weekend at the Stank.
Yeah, come on. It's a lot of fun. It's not the same kind of bowl that you guys have. It's a little bit higher. We've got some decks out and right that you can bring whatever you want, and a beverage included. You can read into that what you want. As long as it's in a cup, we're okay with it. But since the last time you guys were here, I think the video board had just been put in and left, but that's still out there. We've redone Kit's Corner and Left, which is our alumni deck. It's now a 3-tiered, really nice deck. And on the bottom ground level, you can actually see through the fence and sit in some Adirondack chairs. The big difference that folks will probably see is the new John Lieber clubhouse, which is down the left field line. Before, it was kind of looking like an old house in the left field corner. That's been completely torn down. It's a brand new building that opened before last season, and it's great. I mean, the size of the locker room itself is bigger than I believe the entire building was before. It's close to a major league locker room. It's huge. It has its own weight room in there too. It's got a training facility, coaches' offices, whatnot, players' lounge, equipment room, mud room, blah blah blah. I mean, obviously fans won't see that, but it's a nice facility and something that we've definitely lacked, because before we didn't have enough lockers for the entire team. Guys were doubling up in some lockers, and so having a big, nice facility like that's great. The bullpens are no longer in play. That's a big difference. They're now behind fences. The massive amounts of foul ground we used to have down each line are gone because they put 3 mound bullpens on each side. And so that really, we're talking 2 feet of foul ground once you get down the lines by the bullpens. It's very, very narrow. especially, I mean, Colin, you've seen it. The old foul ground was huge down the lines. Now it's non-existent. Um, might be the last time you see grass and dirt at Eddie Stanky Field. I know Mark Calvey has he really wants to get some turf in there, and I get it. You know, it rains a lot down here. You lose a lot of practice days, but I think you and I are on the same page. You know, baseball's meant to be on grass and dirt, and so that hurts my soul a little bit to hear that. But I get from a coaching and a program standpoint where they're going with it. But
that's crazy because this
yeah.
is the only road conference weekend that we will see an all natural surface.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's what I've told people is that the conference around a lot of folks around the league have gone turf already, and it's just the way it's kind of going in college baseball. But it's I love grass and dirt.
Yep.
I absolutely love it.
I'm with you. Appreciate you taking some time. Looking forward to catching up this weekend. It's supposed to be a really good weekend for Georgia Southern and South Alabama. Always is when these two get together. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks, my man. I'll see you this weekend.